You ready?
Yeah!
All right, let me ask you guys a question. How many of you are here to find out about comics and merchandise and all that cool stuff? Raise your hand. All right. How many of you are here to find out the corporate future of Robotech after 2021? Raise your hand. Wow. Okay, guess what? We're going to answer both questions. Please, all right? Everybody wins at this panel, all right? So, let's move on to our panel ground rules. Folks, we encourage audio and video recording of the panel.
What?
Yes. Yes, you can actually record. We allow you to audio and video record this panel. And you can upload this to YouTube and SoundCloud if you want. Okay, so that's fine with us as well. Okay? We also encourage you all to use hashtag Robotech, hashtag Macross, and hashtag Anime Expo on social media. For everyone's enjoyment, we ask that you please silence all mobile devices, okay? And please hold all of your questions until the end, because we have time for Q&A. And with that taken care of, my fellow Robotech fans, members of the industry, and invited guests, welcome to Los Angeles and to the Robotech and Harmony Gold, a reversal of fortune panel here at Anime Expo. All right, Feel free to laugh, clap, cheer, or boo if you so choose. But it's my pleasure to introduce, and I ask you all please to clap, for my awesome panelists up here today. Please welcome Steve Yoon, our Vice President of New Media. Please welcome Tommy Yoon, our Creative Director. And you might notice we have a mystery guest up here. His name is Carlos.
Hi, Carlos.
Yes. We'll find out what Carlos is doing a little later on in the panel. And I will probably introduce myself. My name is Kevin McKeever. I am Vice President of Marketing for the Robotech franchise. Thank you. Now, normally, our panels, we showcase the merchandise in the pipeline, such as our new tabletop game from Japanime Games, which is shipping right now for $80, and you can order it right now at booth 3017. You can buy it right now, actually, at booth 3017 here at the Anime Expo. We also have a Southern Cross card game called Robotech Crisis Point. It is now shipping for $30. You can ask for it at your local game store. And of course, we have the plushies. Yes, from our awesome new license, Icon Heroes. We signed them up right before a deadline. We also have some great apparel from our friends at 80stees.com. They make Robotech t-shirts, hoodies, and hockey jerseys. We also have a new line of Robotech custom flight jackets.
Stop the con right now.
And just last year, our new line of Robotech action figures has launched.
Nice.
Wave 1 features Rick, Max, Roy, Min-May, and Miriam.
No Ben?
Wait, you want Ben? We ain't gonna please, because Wave 2's got Ben. And Claudia.
Why is he so skinny?
You didn't get to eat that steak.
Eat that steak, folks. We also have Claudia, Global, Rick in his normal uniform, and for you Lisa Hayes fans, we have Lisa as well. And our friends at Caliber Wings have a line of 172 die-cast metal models, starting with a Robotech F-14 Tomcat, officially licensed from Northrop Grumman.
So
These will be followed by a line of die-cast metal VF1s that will make their debut at San Diego Comic-Con. This is the artwork on the box, and here is a picture of it. And these will be available starting at San Diego. And for you Transforming Toy fans out there, our friends at Kids Concept have you covered with their new line of 172 fully transformable VF1s. And if you might notice, folks, the LED lighting, they actually light up.
Nice.
They're very good. You're really going to like these new Kids Concept VF1s. But folks, a lot of people would say, Kevin, this is wonderful and all, but I mean, I hate to say it, but it's all irrelevant because in September 2017, news broke that there was an arbitration ruling upheld by a California court. An Anime News Network reported, and I quote, a California court in June upheld a license agreement between Harmony Gold USA and Tatsunoko Productions, affirming that Harmony Gold's license to the Super Dimension Fortress Macross, the Super Dimension Cavalry Southern Cross, and Genesis Climber Mosquito will expire on March 14, 2021. So you're probably asking yourself, so what did the court actually uphold? Well, the ruling stated that the licensing agreement between Harmony Gold and Tatsunoko is valid. However, without a renewal, Harmony Gold's license to the animated series Macross, Southern Cross, and Mosquito will expire on March 14, 2021. After this news was made public, fans began to ask questions.
What's Frontier?
We'll get there.
Burn down Delta. Record zero.
Will Harmony Gold lose the license to Macross, Southern Cross, and Mosquito in 2021? And what about the future of Robotech after 2021? Let's tackle the first question. Will Harmony Gold actually lose the license to Macross, Southern Cross, and Mosquito in 2021?
Yes.
Harmony Gold and Tatsunoko were involved in intense negotiations for the renewal of Macross, Southern Cross, and Mosquito. However, those negotiations have since concluded. The reason being,
Where's my idol?
Harmony Gold and Tatsunoko signed an agreement to renew and extend the current license and amendments for Macross, Southern Cross, and Mosquito. To be blunt, Harmony Gold has renewed Macross, Southern Cross, and Mosquito, the rights for those shows. Robotech is safe and secure and will not, repeat, not be ending in 2021, as some anime insiders have reported. And there is more. Since this is a renewal and extension of the current agreements, all of Harmony Gold's rights to Macross, Southern Cross, and Mosquito will remain in full effect well into the future. There's also a statement by our chairman of Harmony Gold, Frank Agrama, which I will now read to you in full. Quote, over the past 35 years, we have been blessed to work with our friends at Tatsunoko on developing one of the world's greatest entertainment franchises. With our extension, we look forward to the next 35 years of working with Tatsunoko and our world-class business partners on Robotech. And now that our license is renewed for the foreseeable future, it's a great time to talk about the Robotech live-action film set up at Sony. Ah, yes. As you all know, in July 2017, Sony Pictures announced that its director, Andy Muschietti, will be directing the live-action Robotech movie. 2 months later, in September 2017, Sony Pictures announced that Wonder Woman co-writer Jason Fuchs will script the live-action film. And I want to give you a sense of what the next steps are. Currently, Andy is shooting the sequel to It. He's currently wrapping it up. He's in post-production. He had to do a few reshoots. We're waiting him to finish up the sequel to It. While that is going on, Jason is writing the screenplay for the live-action Robotech movie. And while that is occurring, Harmony Gold and Sony are working to develop the live-action film while while the sequel to It is in post-production. And it's this last point that I want to highlight and explore a bit further today. Namely, the relationship between Sony Pictures and Harmony Gold over the next 18 months. When Harmony Gold signed the contract with Sony, the entire Harmony Gold team celebrated. And after we celebrated, we moved on to the next phase. That next phase was answering the large amount of questions Sony Pictures had about Robotech. See, these questions all began back in the spring of 2015, when the deal with Sony was first announced. Numerous Sony executives began asking all of us questions about the franchise, and Sony wanted answers. So to get these answers, Sony invited us all over to their studio in Culver City in November 2016. And when we arrived at their gate, we were escorted directly into the Sony Pictures executive boardroom. Once there, we began to set up for the presentation, and we gave each executive a Robotech toy and a brochure outlining the history of the franchise. Once we began our presentation, we started to talk about the history of Robotech, its performance, and how well it does overseas, and all this sort of really deep technical questions. And while we were going into this, the Sony executives stopped us and said, this is all wonderful, this is amazing. However, we want more Robotech in the marketplace in the run-up to the live-action film, since that would benefit everyone. To that end, the following agreement was struck. Sony Pictures granted Harmony Gold clearance to continue to create and license new animated Robotech merchandise. And while this arrangement was beneficial for both parties, Sony and Harmony Gold are exploring ways to expand our partnership over the next 18 months.
Don't you fill out Walmart?
I'm sorry?
Don't you fill out Walmart?
We're working on that. Okay? With our partnership growing, I want to discuss how Robotech is moving forward. And to help explain our path forward, I want to bring in my colleague, Tommy Yoon, to discuss about Titan Comics. Tommy, take it away.
All right, now, regarding what Kevin said, I know a lot of questions that fans have. Definitely we can hear why wasn't more being done with Robotech? And with the previous relationship we had with the different studio back then, we were actually restricted in what we could do and what we could bring to the fans. So a lot of fans did notice that the franchise became a lot quieter. There was less stuff out, there was less content. And one of the things that we're grateful to Sony is that they really understand Robotech, they understand its value, and I think already everyone has seen the fruits of this new relationship is just the explosion of new Robotech content and merchandise within just the last couple of years. And at the forefront of that is Titan Comics, and the reason is that in the short time they've had the license, they've already matched the output of DC Comics and Wildstorm had in a longer period of time. So we're really grateful to Titan for that, with their #1 launch in the comic marketplace. And right now, the comics that they've released so far, they're already past the 20th issue, which is pretty amazing, since they've started publishing Robotech. And you can get these back issues on Comixology. You can also get the trade paperbacks. And going further, the current creative team we have right now, we are so proud of them. This is Simon Furman and Henry Prasetya. They've been working really closely together. Simon, as you may recognize his name, had been working on the Transformers comics for a long time. The fans highly respect him because he's very knowledgeable about the Transformers franchise. And when coming into Robotech, we were overjoyed to find out that he loved Robotech just as much. I mean, one of the things that makes our jobs really a lot easier working with Simon is we don't have to really correct him on continuity. He knows everything inside out. In fact, the funny thing is, probably the biggest notes that we give him is because he's grown up in England. Sometimes we'll say, this might be a better American idiom than an English idiom. But other than that, his stories have just been spot on. The fans have responded. And Henry, also working together with him, they recently launched a big comic event, and this was on Free Comic Book Day. This was a huge honor for Robotech. This is the first time Robotech has ever done this. This is to encourage more kids to read. As you may know, on May the 4th, which also lines up with Star Wars Day, the comic stores release a free comic book of major franchises on that day. So you might see a major DC Comics release, a major Marvel release. This is the first time we've ever had Robotech on Free Comic Book Day to allow fans to jump in. In fact, the biggest complaint we got was that there was such a run on these comics, many fans missed out on the chance to get these comics. So this is the 0th issue, which was given away absolutely free for people to jump into Robotech, into this new Event Horizon storyline. And I'll show you the latest issue that's come out. You'll see right here, you've got half of the issue, half of the cover with Max, and half of it with the Regis. One of the things we're doing with the storyline, we're actually exploring something that Carl Masick always wanted to do ever since Robotech the graphic novel. He just wanted to mix things up. He wanted to combine the stories of the 3 different sagas into one whole as Robotech. So we have Macross events crossing over into new generation events. And this is also bringing many different continuities of Robotech together. And the thing is, Simon's not shy at all in terms of experimenting with the storylines. We'll show you a little peek here. He's even rolling Robotech 3000 into it. So one of the things that, in a way, was a challenge for Robotech, for the longest time, Robotech just had one continuity. And during the 90s, for those of you who used to be on Usenet, might remember there used to be these unbelievable flame wars between fans who were bikiniists, who loved the novelization continuity, versus the Kamiko continuity, versus the original animation continuity. There used to be all talks about what is canon, what is not. And what was really interesting was Carl would talk about how all the different merchandise was covering basically the same story in a different way. He said it's all meant to be organic. It's not meant to fit together perfectly. Each story is telling it in its best way for its medium. And now with this Event Horizon event, we're exploring the possibility that Robotech has different continuities, different realities, and this has already been explored since the very first Titan comic. Fans already knew that something was different. Things were being changed with a very specific purpose in mind. And so now when fans see something different happening, instead of saying, oh, why is this not canon? Now they're thinking more of what does Simon Furman have up his sleeve? A little bit further. And we also want to introduce, with this Event Horizon event, we are also introducing a new writer, and this is Brendan Fletcher. He's a highly respected, nominated writer who's been working with Image on Isola, which is highly acclaimed. We're glad to have him on board with Robotech, and he's also been working with Sarah Stone on a backup story. And this story is eventually going to grow and dovetail into where Simon Furman is headed. And so Brendan considers this a great honor and a responsibility to be building on the story that Simon has set up. And this is going to be coming out later this year. I highly recommend for those of you who can come to San Diego, he's going to be able to talk more about it at that time. But this is what's coming up next for the comics.
And coming up next for merchandise, a couple people are asking me when they're waiting out there, where's like some of the bigger merchandise? Well, we have a 3-foot-tall SDF-1, which is currently going to be released by our friends at Kids Logic. It made its debut in Hong Kong a few years ago, and it's coming, folks. Yes, and if you notice, it has LED lights.
And look at the size of that thing.
Yeah, I've seen it, folks. It's enormous. And we also have an awesome new license called MEP Toys. And they have Southern Cross action figures in development. And I want to bring in our awesome mystery guest. His name is Carlos. Carlos, you are the founder of MEP Toys. Is it MEP Toys or MEP Toys?
Whichever you want.
Whichever we want? Okay, whatever we want, okay.
It works both ways.
Carlos, tell us about your company and what your plans are.
Yeah, so we are a group of fans that got together and started actually designing toys. We are focusing on Centrati, Southern Cross, Invid, and the toys that, that don't have that much love to them. Yeah, we have a really awesome team, which if I can give thanks to them, we grab our team is global. We have a person in Argentina, Julian Cavada. He's one of our 3D sculptors. He does an awesome job. We have Chuck Deckett. He does a lot of our artwork for the boxes. I have our first toy, Britai, that's coming out. So it does scale to the 1/100 Toynami figures.
Yeah, Carlos, actually, can you share a little bit about your communication with George Sun at Toynami himself?
Yeah, so back in October, we talked with George from Toynami, and we were talking about what figures he was working on and coming up with ideas. And we decided to actually, us, MEP Toys, will complement most of the Toynami lines, so we don't flood the market with the same figures, right? So that's why we are focusing on Centrati and mostly bad guys, because they don't get toys very often. Also, I have, if I mind, the second figure we are launching. We are working on the Southern Cross, but we got some feedback from you guys, so we are reworking some of the sculptures to make it better. And we're working on the Invid Scout. I don't know if you can see it from
You can all see it in really good detail here, right?
Yeah, it's,
Actually, we encourage, after the panel is over,
Come on,
up and take a peek at what Carlos has brought with him. It's incredible.
yeah, it's a scale to the Toynami Masterpiece Alphas, so 1/55 scale-ish. And we are going from there. So we are trying to get these, so we are a small startup company, so we are rolling slow and trying to keep up with awesome toy companies that are out there, right?
So Carlos, it's interesting that you're a different toy company than Toynami, but you're actually, instead of competing with one another, you're actually, in a way, almost like working on stuff that Toynami normally wouldn't be in Toynami's wheelhouse.
Right, right. I like to work on win-win scenarios. I like to build each other instead of try to destroy each other. So that's our philosophy.
So this is something that Carlos has a social media presence. His toy company's on Facebook. Give him feedback, like stuff that normally wouldn't be within Toynami's product line range. Because normally Toynami goes after the most obvious product lines. They're basically being run like a larger business where they have larger minimum order quantities, like they have to manufacture at least a few thousand to make it economical for them. Carlos, with a smaller company, can actually do stuff that Toynami normally wouldn't be able to do.
Right. And yeah, so give us feedback. We try to listen to all the feedback we get. And we're trying to show love to all the series across, Shadow Chronicles, Sentinels. We have a growing library of 3D designs already that will come out as we can grow our capital, right? For example, I don't know if you can see, well, it's hard to see, it's all gray, but we have a little Hellcat from Sentinel.
Wow.
We have a 3D model of. That hopefully someday we can actually make a toy, but that'll come in time.
Thank you.
Carlos, this figure here is Britai's battleship, right?
Yes, yes. So with the Britai pre-orders, we have a little bonus, a little 1/40,000 scale Le Petit Verdex. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you pronounced that really well.
Oh, good.
And the pre-orders are still available?
Yes, through
So you can still get
Robotech.com.
this, and this is only available to pre-order customers here, the Britai's flagship.
Yeah, so through Robotech.com, we have limited quantities of it. Through our website, they ran out. So the only pre-orders with the bonus are that come with the little ship comes through Robotech.com at this point.
Excellent. Carlos, I have one quick question.
Yes.
It says here, there's an ejection seat Rick Hunter figure. Is that a reference to when Britai and Rick fight in episode 11 and he ejects, he grabs in? Does that come with this?
Yes, it actually does come with it. I got the inspiration from that. I love that episode when Britai just punching this VF1, beating it to a pulp and take a blast to his face and just be okay.
That's actually interesting that it's done to the scale of Toynami's VF1 figure, so you can actually get both and recreate the scene.
Yeah. It does have the pipe that he gets from the ship. And
Although tearing off Rick's chest plate is not covered by warranty.
yes.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
You should do the Bastion head, alternate head.
Do you want a torn off 1/100 scale VF1 to go with this figure? Okay, we'll work on that. And speaking of the 1/100 scale VF1s.
Oh yeah, so Toynami had released a product last year, which actually last WonderCon, which was a big hit. This is a throwback retro design, which is supposed to evoke the look of the original Japanese release of the Takatoku VF1. Unfortunately, moment of silence, Takatoku, that company is no more. But what they've done is they've essentially created a localized version of that box, where the box has been translated into English, and they had new retro artwork commissioned for this box to kind of evoke the feel of box designs back then. In fact, Toynami went as far as even trying to source the same type of textured paper that was used back in the 80s. And at Comic-Con, they're going to be introducing another one. They're going to be introducing the VF1S Armored Valkyrie. And unlike the most recent release, in which they correctly paired up the VF1J with the red armor and the VF1S, we actually made it so it was the VF1S paired up with the VF1J armor. And this will be a Comic-Con exclusive from Toynami. And again, some more of that great retro art in there. You might recognize it. It looks familiar, but it's actually all new art. And I want to talk just a little bit about the artist who's involved in this. And this is Jamie Sullivan, the illustrator. He can't join us today, but he will be at Comic-Con in a few weeks. And I want to give you a peek of the work that he does. It's just amazing. He does have digital experience, but the foundation of his work, he actually still works on old canvas, paper, pencil, markers. He really enjoys being an analog kind of artist. And the purpose of this is that this is new artwork, but he's trying to make it look like stuff that you saw in old art books from the 80s. And his process is amazing. And they're actually going to have more artwork from him for sale promotionally from Toonami at San Diego Comic-Con. So at that panel in a few weeks, he's going to actually join us and talk about his process.
And speaking of San Diego Comic-Con, I know you folks have more questions now that we have the renewal. What about the art books? What about the SDF-1 we talked about? What about that transforming SDF-1 by Kids concept? And what about a whole bunch of other things? We're going to answer some, and I want to emphasize some of these questions at the Robotech The Great Transition panel on Thursday, July 18th, 2019, 5 AB at 8 p.m. at San Diego Comic-Con. So folks, we all want to take a moment to say thank you. We appreciate your support these past 34 years. We look forward to the 35th anniversary of Robotech and a great future for the franchise. There's some great things in the pipeline. And now we want to hear what you have to say.